Hello, fellow piano beginners. This is Christine, and today I want to talk to you about exercises that I use to help with improving my sight reading of sheet music. As a beginner, I've found that the biggest challenge to reading sheet music is keeping my eyes on the songbook rather than staring down at the keys, trying to find the note that I want to hit. However, I have reached a place where I'm pretty comfortable with my right hand on the treble clef and finding the notes in simple songs, and I'm getting there with my left hand. So I want to share with you the lessons that I do every day before I dive into my day's lesson, whether that's with a piano app, with a teacher, or using your own lesson book. Each day I focus a little bit on scales, simple songs, reading notes on the staff, and chords. So we're going to look at those 4 things today, and I'll take you through each one. Let's get started with scales. Now, everyone who's starting to play piano always starts with the C major scale. Why? Because it's generally accepted as the simplest scale since it only uses white keys. You don't play any of the black keys, so you don't have to concern yourself with when you need to move your fingers up. Each app that I've used has also focused on just 1 octave from middle C for quite a while. You may bounce outside that octave a little bit, but basically you have middle C, and then the next C on the keyboard going up, and the next C going down. And so most of what I focus on when I'm practicing scales as a very beginner is just within that range. Because I think the first goal when you're playing piano is to be able to master where all of these notes are and be able to find them without looking at the keyboard. If you can do that, mastering the rest of the keyboard starts to become within your grasp. So my first exercise every day is I'm right-handed, my right hand is stronger, so I focus with that first. And I just run through the scale. If you're not familiar with the C major scale, it's you play your first 3 fingers, cross under with your thumb, and play up to your pinky, and you're there. Going back down, when you hit your thumb, you cross over with your 3rd finger. And I will just do this over and over again until I'm feeling comfortable. And another goal you should have is to play them all at the same speed and the same volume. So if you have to play more slowly, then play more slowly. But they all sound fairly consistent, right? It's not... which is not good. And then you'll do the same thing with your left hand. Oh, see, the last couple of keys were too fast there. It's also just a mirror image of what you did with your right hand. So I do that over and over again, and that helps you also warm up for your next lesson. As you get more advanced, you still want your hands to be warmed up as you dive in. Next up, I do both hands. And obviously you should be able to do this without looking. Now doing it with both hands starts to become a little more complicated because your fingers don't cross over at the same time. So I'm crossing over my right hand and then my left hand. And on the way back, the opposite. So you just keep working at that. And once you have both hands going up and down, and then you can do them together, another thing you can do is mirror them. Where you're hitting middle C with both thumbs at the same time. When I first started playing the scales, another thing I did to help myself was to say the notes out loud. Because it's not just a matter of being able to play them and not hit multiple keys at once, but it's also being able to know which notes you're hitting. That's going to help you tremendously when you get to sheet music. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. And I look at the keys while I'm doing it, so I can see where the notes are on the keyboard. So I should be able to say, okay, the F key is here, the A key is here, the D key is here, and you need to be able to pick out these notes at any time. And it's the same for your left hand. Next up, you may want to try to learn other scales. I'm not going to dive into this today because I'm focusing on the really beginner stuff, but once you learn the techniques for finding the other scales, it becomes more easy to play. The next scale a lot of people learn is G major because it only has 1 black key. But we'll get into that more in another lesson. You may also want to try scales that range more than 1 octave. So when you play 2 octaves, the fingering is a little bit different. So you'll notice I didn't actually use all 5 fingers until I got to the very end. I'm not going to dive into exactly how that works. We can do that in another lesson. I will link down below. There was a video on YouTube that I found that gave a pretty good lesson of doing scales across octaves. All right, so after scales, the next thing I look at is playing some simple songs that I know. Do, re, mi. Do, a deer, a female deer, re, a tropical and sun, me, a name I call myself, fa, a long way to run, so a needle pulling thread, la, no to follow, so, tea, a drink with jam and bread, that will bring us back to do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti, do. Being able to play a simple song on the piano and have it memorized just makes you feel like you're making progress. You don't always want to just be doing exercises. So once I do my scales, the next thing I do is play a couple of simple songs. So I need to be able to do that though, not just with my right hand, but also with my left hand. So you practice it until you can do it without looking at the keyboard. And I will tell you, I can do this, but playing it in front of a camera is so much more difficult than just playing it on my own. But then the next thing I do is I play it with both hands. Very awkward to know where to look while I'm doing this. I'm staring at you guys. Next thing I do is practice reading notes on the staff. So if you've memorized all the white keys within an octave of middle C, the next thing is being able to recognize them on the staff. I have a couple of different types of beginner books. This first one is a super easy song book called Broadway, and I will link to it down in the description below if you want to check it out for yourself. This book, let me just show you here, is a little different from a regular song book because you can see they label the letters on the notes, which is not normal. And they don't have the bass clef at all. It's just the treble clef. And they have the chords. They show you how to play them up top to try to make it simple. And they just mark it. So when you see the F, you play the F chord. When you see the C, etc. So it's supposed to make it a little bit easier. This is great for making sure you know the notes on the treble clef, which I think most people learn first. It's attached to the right hand, the melody of the song. You can play a song without the bass, but I'm not specifically trying to learn this song. It's just learning the notes on the staff, which will also come just by practicing, not just from warming up. But A, B, C, D, C, G, A, B, C, D, C, A, B, C, C, D, C, G, E, F, E, D, E, D, E. So you can see I'm not looking at my fingers while I play this. I'm just looking at the staff. But it's because I know these notes. So this is a good book if you're a beginner and you really don't know where any of the notes on the staff are. But once you become familiar with the notes, then you want to switch to a book that is more typical sheet music. So this is the Illustrated Treasury of Disney Songs, which I'll also link to in the description below in case you want to pick it up. But you can see this is more standard. It does have the names, which is really nice. I don't know if you can see that. But it does have the names of the chords, but it also shows them down below. Now this particular song is in the key of B flat, which if you're not familiar with key signatures yet, may make it a little more complicated to read, but it's still a fairly simple beginner song. But this one starts on an F, so I happen to know where F is on the keyboard. I just do. And I try to say the notes. F, 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 G, A, C, 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 D, F, C, D, F, G, F, 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 G, A, C, 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 D, F, G. You can get the idea here. It sounds silly, but it really does help if you can see the notes on the staff, say the letters, and know where they are in the keys. you will be able to sight read music so much easier. Bass clef is the same thing. However, a lot of times you're playing more than one note at the same time, so it can be a little more complicated, but I still try to say them. And I have a much harder time with recognizing the notes on the bass clef. So I happen to know that this is an F and an A. F and A. And then we have, that is a low A, outside our range of what we know so far, but that's okay. And the high note is a G. So it's going to go F and A to A and G. The trick I used to finding notes on the bass clef was to figure out where the low C was. So C is the second space from the bottom on the bass clef. So if I can't remember what a note is, I count up the letters from the C. So the next section here is one above and one below. So it's going to be a B and a D right around the low C. So again, it's F and A first, then it's A and G, and then it's going to be the two around the C, which are B and D. And that's how you kind of slowly begin to get the notes. Now, the next part is a lot easier because it's one note at a time. So I know that's C, as I mentioned, then we have D, and then we have A. So if I just play this first line, and I'm going to put the book down so that I can play with two hands, it might sound something like this. Oh, it's a B flat. See? This is what happens when you have key signatures. You guys are probably watching this going, you're doing this wrong. That note wasn't a B down below, it was a B flat, which means I need to play this one. As you can see, this is a work in progress, but it is one of my main goals. So I've been focusing a lot on trying to make sure I can just find the notes on the staff. So whatever you can do, I think songbooks are the best way to do this. And then you will just naturally also pick this up as you take more lessons. So continue at it and this will get easier. And the last thing I work on are chords. Playing multiple notes is really the next challenge to overcome. Once you're able to find the notes on the keyboard, read the notes on the staff, then it's being able to find them more than one at once. And I think memorizing the chords is the way a lot of people do it. It becomes muscle memory to be able to see a C chord and just hit it on the keyboard. I found that the Simply Piano app is excellent for repetition with chords. And so now I know I can go through C, G, A, D, E, D minor, E minor. We've also learned started to learn some of the jazz chords, so G7 and C7, and there's a few other chords in there, and then being able to play them with both hands. So Simply Piano at least has focused mostly on playing chords with the right hand, but also once you start doing lead sheet music, you play the melody with the right hand and the chords go into the left. So C, D, E, A, G, G. I skipped F, and also again D minor, E minor. But practicing those over and over again as you learn them is very helpful because if you can recognize them on the staff, you don't have to pick out each individual note to play and try to sort through. You can just say, oh, that's a C chord, and just play it. So those are the 4 major exercises that I have been focused on. Each day I practice as a beginner to help me with being able to read sheet music and stare down at my fingers less while I'm playing. So I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, please comment below. If there's any questions that you have, let me know and I will do my best to answer them. And if there's anything in particular that you'd like to see or see the strategies or methods that I'm using to try to learn, I would love to hear it and I'd be happy to do more videos on those topics. So thanks again for joining me and stay tuned for more.